This is Democracy Watch. I'm joined by my co-host, voting rights attorney and founder of Democracy Docket, Marc Elias. Marc, we've got some big news out of one of the most important swing states in the country. Can you speak on what just happened with Act 77 in Pennsylvania, which is a 2019 law in PA that expanded mail-in voting in the state?
Republicans extended their loss record. I mean, they lost again in court. They challenged again this broad law that allows more people to vote in Pennsylvania. A court struck down their latest effort, so Act 77 is safe.
Just for posterity here, and because the irony is too perfect, can you discuss who actually passed Act 77?
So just before we did this interview, I went on my bookshelf, I pulled out a dictionary, I looked up the definition of chutzpah, and there was a picture of the Republican Party of Pennsylvania, because it was the Republican legislature that enacted Act 77. They thought it was a great idea until they lost the 2020 election.
Right. Why did Republicans basically change their tune on mail-in voting, and do you think that this result may cause the GOP to figure out a way to embrace mail-in voting moving forward?
Look, I think Republicans have changed their tune on mail-in voting because they don't win the majority of the electorate anymore, and they know it. And so any method of voting, whether it's early in person, whether it's election day, whether it's vote by mail, any method of voting that makes it easier for more people to participate is bad news for the Republican Party, because their only way of exercising majority power when they have minority support is to rig the rules of elections and make it harder. So I don't think they're going to change their tune on mail-in voting. I do think there'll be some elites within the Republican Party at the RNC level and otherwise who will say that they need to change their tune. But you know what? Don't listen to what they say in Washington. Listen to what they're saying out in the states. And what they're saying out in the states, in states like Arizona and Pennsylvania, is they're still fighting against mail-in voting.
Okay. Well, to that point, do you anticipate any other Republican challenges to Act 77 or mail-in voting in Pennsylvania more broadly?
The Republican Party of Pennsylvania wouldn't be complete if they weren't losing a lawsuit over Act 77 at any given time. So I don't know what they particularly have in mind, but I'm assuming that we are going to continue to see Republicans in Pennsylvania and around the country continue to litigate cases to make voting harder. And that includes in Pennsylvania attacking Act 77, which, like I said, was a bipartisan bill that expanded vote by mail.
How is it not settled at this point? When you lose these cases so definitively, and when the case is over, how are they able to just constantly bring about more challenges to basically the same thing?
I have been asking myself that question. How is it that Donald Trump could have lost 65 cases in one post-election? How could it be that we went through all of 2021 and 2022 with Republicans continuing to go to court and losing and losing and losing? How is it to this day, Brian, that Carrie Lake is still litigating the gubernatorial election that she has lost over and over again? I don't know. I don't know if it's because it helps their fundraising. I don't know if it helps it's an organizing principle or if they're desperate. But as sure as we sit here, I am sure we have not seen the last of frivolous litigation from the Republican Party.
All right. Are there any other lawsuits related to democracy or voting rights in Pennsylvania that we should be keeping an eye on, especially ahead of 2024?
Yeah, a really important lawsuit is going on in Pennsylvania right now over what are referred to as undated ballots. So when you fill out and return a mail-in ballot in Pennsylvania, you sign your name and then there's a place for a date. It's not clear why you need to put a date there, since after all, the state and the counties date the ballots, stamp them with a date when they receive them, so they know they got them on time. But nevertheless, the Republicans have tried to exploit this date field to say that people who either don't put the right date or fail to put any date shouldn't have their votes counted. It's an absolute disgrace that's the case. The Democratic Party is litigating to ensure those ballots are counted in the future. That case is going on. If you go to democracydocket.com, click on the Pennsylvania cases page, you can actually read about that case, but it's a really important case for us to all be following.
And can you give an update on the timeline of that case, when we should expect to see some type of resolution?
I think we're going to get a resolution this year. You know, that case is in the midst of pretrial briefing, but the issues are pretty well defined. And we believe that the federal materiality clause law of the Civil Rights Act prohibits these ballots from being disqualified. So I'd expect we're going to get a resolution this year.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there. As always, thank you to you and your team for working on this in Pennsylvania and, of course, in other cases across the country. For anybody watching, if you want to help support Marc and his team, then please sign up for Democracy Docket. It's a free news outlet focused on voting and elections. The link is right here on the screen, and it's also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.